Maestro, we're gonna find out what we think are the reasons why Maestro was surprisingly good. I don't think either of us were expecting it to be good from the pitch. The pitch is
what is the pitch?
It's a biopic of...
Oh, I see what you mean. I thought you were just going to say what's my quick mouthy summary of why it's good.
Okay, what's your mouthy summary of the film?
Of the film is that it is a biopic of Bernstein. I say Bernstein. So it's a historical biopic, so it's not a snapshot of one particular moment in his life, but carries us through various, in a very linear, not entirely linear fashion, but, in a sort of historical trajectory through key moments in his life. It's like a very impressionistic study. There are in a sense sort of major plot points and points of tension, but
and
for
it
the most
foregrounds his relationship.
His relationships, so partly with his wife, relationship. So his sexuality is a part of this, I think, and it's obviously a major factor of Bernstein's own life. But I think kind of holds lots of things in tension. So between his populist, his populist tendencies with the musical theatre, and then with Broadway theatre, but then also his deep abiding love for Mahler. His interest in the classical tradition proper, so I think there's that kind of tension between the popular and the
and at various points he's told that he'll have to choose between these routes, and
turns out it's a bit of a false choice because
his whole thing is very inspiring. If you ever worry that you should choose one option, you can be straight and gay.
You can be straight and gay, which is kind of what the film...
I didn't realise that was the central metaphor, but
it kind of works in that capacity. So his relationship with his wife, they had a family together, played by Carey Mulligan.
Yes.
Carey Mulligan, yeah. I almost said Carrie Bradshaw, which would have been...
no, that would have been somewhat meta. Yes, Carey Mulligan, fantastic as Felicia Montigre, who was a Costa Rican actress and I think also an activist. She led quite an interesting life herself, which I feel the film maybe didn't have room.
It kind of eclipsed her.
Didn't have room to explore, but it would have. That was maybe my one misgiving, is that I wanted to see a little bit more of her life.
She was there to basically be the foil to Bernstein's genius and his virtuosity. So this is really the big thing about this. It's a beyond the nose. Is that this is a Bradley Cooper acting vehicle.
Yes, directing vehicle.
But it's not in a way, because it actually surpasses that.
What makes something a vehicle, in your opinion?
I think when it's all of the cards are laid out in a way that this is merely a vessel that allows one actor to shine and show off their brilliance. So I think Paul Thomas Anderson's There'll Be Blood is a great example of this. That's a film where...
Daniel Day-Lewis.
It's really... Paul Dano is great in it, but really it's all about Daniel Day-Lewis being as It's a character who is, larger than life, who has great,
Would you describe Aguirre, The Wrath of God, as a Klaus Kinski vehicle? Because I feel like vehicle implies that the film has lost some of its integrity through being held primarily by a particular performance.
Yeah, because I think that's really...
8 Mile is an Eminem vehicle. You wouldn't watch 100%. That film for any other reason, right?
I listened to it for the amazing rap battles, and
that's Eminem, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel like maybe Aguirre is chalk and cheese, isn't it? Because Wrath of God is very much this. We know everything we know about Aguirre is already this very tense, sort of.
No, I'm playing devil's advocate. I think it's a holistically brilliant film, but I think that I wouldn't necessarily and I don't love There Will Be Blood, but I think that it's it's not simply a powerful performance that makes something vehicular.
Vehicular manslaughter is what's that. But no, I feel like there are certain films where you end up watching them because of the virtuosity of this one actor and their ability. It might be the verisimilitude which they inhabit a particular role. This is everything I felt that Maestro would be, and I thought, okay, maybe he's going to competently perform as Bernstein, as a conductor and as a composer, and that'll be it, and it will laugh and cry and whatever throughout the film. But I think it was so much more interesting than that, because Labatique, who's his DOP, brought a bizarre, frothy formally quite complicated like structure to how the film was shot, because it used lots of interesting compositional angles. The blocking was interesting. It tone shifted quite a lot, between the eras, and I think that was really interesting. So each segment of the film, the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, had its own unique visual style that fully inhabited that era without kind of exaggerating it or satirizing it.
I think it had this quality of broad influence, maybe collage. It was almost like, I guess, postmodern, if you like. But I was
going to say that, but don't use the word because I say it all the time. So.
No. But I think we mean it.
Yeah. Every time I say it, I mean
it. We're not, we're beating the pretentiousness charges every day. One hopes. I thought frequently about various different directors. I mean, Joanna Hogg. There's an amazing, very, very Joanna Hoggish scene that's shot from a very distant angle where you can barely see the actors, Carey Mulligan and Bradley Cooper, and they're having a horribly uncomfortable argument that's a bit like, almost feels like BBC TV, like comedy, kind of like cringe.
Which argument is this?
So there's an argument where he ends the conversation. And she's like, "Oh, are you ending the conversation? You're walking away."
Oh, okay.
Do you remember this? It was I put it on. I think I sent it on WhatsApp. But yeah, it's like, it's shot from a distance. You can barely see the actors. It's round about the midway point where they're talking about the daughter finding out hearing these rumors. And he's sort of saying
he's like taking his trousers off and like getting undressed. Yeah, from a long car journey with his gay lover.
Yes. Yeah.
Have you heard about these allegations? No. What are you talking about?
But anyway, this is like outside the house in the kind of near the pool, and it's like shot from a distance, and it's pure unrelated. I mean, it feels like it's a tribute to And I want to give Cooper some credit, despite the fact that I didn't initially think Cooper was an avid cinephile. Judging by A Star Is Born, which was a very perfunctory pedestrian vehicle for Lady Gaga and himself.
There we go. There's a vehicle.
There's a pure vehicle, and very Crisis of IP. Just remaking something. Trying to get the bums on seats.
Was it Robert Redford originally or something?
There's been 3 Star Is Born, I think, before the Gaga one.
Well, so Bradley Cooper's presence, starring role in American Sniper, didn't tee you up. This man is going to be a great cinephile.
I haven't seen that, but this is, I think, only his second directorial film.
It is, yeah.
So I wasn't expecting much based on Star Is Born, but no, he seems to have really done his homework and become a cinephile and done what I think we always hope Martin Scorsese will do, as someone who's built up such a demonstrates such a broad and voracious knowledge of film across the world and across genre.
Movies,
Bradley Cooper has really incorporated. There are moments that are sort of this floating, sort of Terrence Malick-y, floaty, intimate Steadicam shots. There are these quite tracking shots through very palatial areas that evoke René's
lots
Marienbad.
Of parties that feel kind of like John Cassavetes. What this becomes when you do this, it's like a list of, it's like that, but sometimes that would be annoying, but it feels it was like a loving tribute.
Yeah, there are these Bergman-esque close-ups that feel like really when stark.
The way Bergman sometimes plays with depth. So you can't tell how close the actors actually are together. It's shot, cross-profile.
Some beautiful stills that are quite wide that evoke Hogg, but also evoke lots of compositions that sort of remind me. It reminds me a little bit of like Woody Allen in the 70s when he was really good, and he would later on as well 80s, not too further later on there. But Woody Allen Woody Allen was a keen cinephile, and he would
still is.
But he would
very much.
he
loves movies.
He would work with a lot of DOPs from films he liked. He brought on Sven Nykvist. He brought on
everyone worked with Sven. He was
Gordon
a Village
Willis.
Bicycle.
True.
But
he worked with Nestor Almendros. I think did like Love and Death, I believe.
That's a great film. But I think that there is a sense in which that's the interesting thing about this film.
Guylaine Cloquet, who did lots of the Bresson films, did Love and Death. It's just important. Return to form factoids. The DOPs that Woody Allen worked with in the 70s and 80s were just some of Europe's best.
Yeah,
and we remember these films as being like charming comedies, but they had real chops, and it's similar to the way in which Maestro borrows very lovingly from like
the costume cupboard
like,
of European art house filmmaking.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I think also America is a tradition of American filmmaking.
Yeah, it's Hollywood there as well.
We've got Busby Berkeley.
Yeah,
you know, we're
absolutely.
talking about. There's the presence of, like I said, Cassavetes, which I think is particularly apparent during these big. Between, you know, it's Cassavetes, any argument and any social gathering, you know, with lots of people, you know, maybe a little bit like Faces at times, that kind of in raw intensity of arguments. I think all that together makes it really fun to watch. And I think one of the things I like the most about it, which might feel quite pat in a way, but is that sometimes these historical biopics, when they shift from era to era, have to very quickly establish that this is the 60s, by the way. This is the 70s, by the way. So what they have to do is they have to kind of exaggerate the era. You know, you get loads of flares. You get, if it's the 80s, you get people walking around with a Walkman, and it really focuses on these things, and it kind of is really trying to beat the drama about the era, so you know comfortably where you are. I think Bradley Cooper was confident enough with this film, but it doesn't really do that. It doesn't have these kind of like quite like almost stage makeup visions of each era. It changes like enough changes, like I said, they have their own kind of visual style and pace, but you know, and we shift into color once we enter the color TV period. I think we enter color, but it never feels like a mannequin. It never feels like a kind of like silly costume drama as it shifts. And what it means is that Bradley Cooper's body changes in really interesting ways. So really attentive treatment of his costume and of his skin and his makeup and his aging process.
This is a material thing though, isn't it? Because like, I mean, you know, we love Citizen Kane, but we can't, and you know, the makeup for that took hours and hours. Yeah. But like, you know, it's obviously not as good as the makeup in Maestro.
No, but you don't notice it in the same way.
And that's, you know, that's fine. But that's like a myth. What I mean is like, you know,
it was just part of his body, and you paid a lot of.
I suppose, his performance embodies the changes really well. He walks like an old man.
There was something very good about his kind of sagging chicken neck and his incredibly bronzed in the 80s. He's really bronzed arms.
It's coming for us all.
It's coming for us all, baby. But he looked good, you know. And I think some of my favorite tone shifts in the film. You know, at the very end, he has this. You know, his wife has died, cancer. He nurses her through her cancer. And he is giving a class. He's older. He's probably his mid-70s or whatever, and has this slightly flirtatious interaction with a young student. And then we cut to him on the dance floor, bathed in red light. It's all kind of blown out slightly. You know, it's kind of gory and sparkly in a way.
It's beautiful.
But it's very ambivalent, but really beautiful. Like this moment of him. You know, it's kind of stripped of sexuality in a way. He's just very liberated, and there were amazing moments.
Passages in reverse, basically.
Reverse passages. But I think that was where, so you know, not to kind of single out these quite emotive moments. I think the entire film was really tight and very strong, and I was just surprised about, because you know when Bradley Cooper's talks, he's actually said he likes Renee. Yeah, that's been a reference. So he's loved, like he's obviously seen like Rochefort, Mon Amour, and Marion Bad. Potentially, because you see it particularly in the black and white segments of the film, these kind of Dutch angles, these slightly strange compositions.
Beautiful bit,
stark.
Beautiful bit right at the start where he's like opening the window. You just have it. What I love was his complete lack of fear about depicting things in like awkward, indirect ways that make you look harder. And I think maybe that's the quality of art house filmmaking that. Is, you know, a lot of people when they dismiss art house films, they say, oh, you know, it was really slow, or like I couldn't really like see, you know, mainstream films, and you know that Hollywood used to make really great mainstream films that had like melodrama and fantastic stories, original stories, and were very innovative in filmmaking actually, but they weren't innovative in this particular. Very like obscuring way that the sort of the European art.
But they were short and tight. These films often, you know, and he's playing with a lot more time, and it did kind of lean into these very grand, very deep, deep focus compositions from the beginning, and it really established a sense of like grandiosity. I think about. Because you're dealing with a man's legacy and a man who's considered to be probably the greatest American composer. Not conductor and composer. Because he composed Western.
No, I know. Who are the other American composers?
Exactly, it's kind of a shallow bench.
True.
But I think there is a sense in which, he has had international stage.
Cage.
Cage, who like Feldman, all these people. But in terms of like the I suppose, the orchestral and symphonic tradition of American classical music. Yeah, he's considered, a popular figure because he had international chops as well. And you really see it with that Mahler performance, which is an extraordinary 5-minute sequence.
Yes.
Beautiful.
One thing
really
that I
moving.
thought with that and with Tar,
Yeah.
because both cases I think of an actor learning how to conduct and then basically conducting really well, as far as I can tell.
Well, you only see him conduct once in this, don't you?
Yeah.
There's less conducting going on than in
But like, what is conduct? This is a bit of I'm pretending to be dumb here while also being dumb. But like, what the fuck is conducting? If you can just learn it for a film, like it's obviously not.
I think
it's obviously not.
There's a bit of.
I know he had loads of other skills.
There's a bit of. I don't really know it well enough, but there's a bit of debate about like. Because a lot of it's preparation, so the conductor is working. You see this in Tar actually is working through the entire score bit by bit beforehand. So the actual, when they're conducting on the night, it's all like it's just
it's all the rehearsal and rapport with the orchestra.
Yeah. They've tightened and finessed.
What Cooper is doing is basically mimicking all that pre-prepared work.
Yeah.
So he's not just like feeling the thing and doing it. He's like,
but he is really feeling in that moment. as well, I think,
but he's not like doing what he's doing because in that moment he's like, ooh, it feels like this now.
Yeah. Oh, it's exciting. No, sad.
It's like he's thinking I need to tell these people to do this, therefore I'm gonna go there. And
I suppose it's like
I just don't understand. It's like more confusing than sign language. It's like because it's not not completely codified, but it does send signals.
It's very.
It's also just about the
like
feeling.
Different conductors will have different styles of conducting. Your hands are doing specific things. One is telling you when to come in, the other is setting your tempo. There is a thing to it, and I suppose with a really good like philharmonic orchestra, maybe they don't need a conductor as much as maybe a amateur orchestra in that sense. Maybe I don't know. They're going to know these pieces perfectly. But I think there's a lot of. I don't know. I'm a film person. I'm not sure. We need to bring on.
It's very cinematic for sure.
It's super cinematic. That's all I care about.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't care if it's
wave the hands around. We love it.
But if you see video of Bernstein,
I did.
He
afterwards
was very
watch.
excitable, emotional. Maybe not as much as Bradley Cooper had.
You think he hams out slightly?
Yeah, a little bit. But I think he's allowed to in the context of this because it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if it's good conducting or bad conducting in the context of this. It's a very powerful piece of cinema. I really enjoyed it.
No, I thought it was terrific. I mean, it's not like. I mean, it didn't feature. We hadn't seen it when we did our top 5 films of the year.
No, it wouldn't have made its way into that top list.
And I don't know if it would have really. There were so many good films last year. Well, we saw a lot of films,
but it's really good, and it's good that you can see it on Netflix.
Yeah,
there
is a lot more people are seeing it, and probably a lot of people. I'm overwhelming feeling is people don't really like it. I'm seeing a lot of like reviews saying that it's indulgent, that it's
Oh yeah, it's fully indulgent, but like
but like as if that was a bad.
Oh, as a negative sense, yeah.
I mean it's a pejorative word.
Yeah, but for me, it's like I think it's more like committing to the bit. He fully commits to the bit of the scale. Like how else with a story like this, you could either choose to like pick out one moment in Bernstein's life, or you can explode it and try and do something that encompasses his whole career and finds. Moments and finds an arc there, and it is an arc there. Even though they're quite fragmented episodic scenes, we'll suddenly jump. It doesn't really tell us where we are or why we are there, which is nice. It's not like California, 1967. Really, it's just we're suddenly just somewhere else. And
it's not too long for such a sprawling film. It's only like 2 hours, basically.
Is it? Yeah, it's 2 hours 11 minutes. There we go. Yeah, it feels more expansive than that actually.
Yeah, but it doesn't linger or like it doesn't really indulge itself. So yes, we are now going to do like we're gonna say what we just said. We just summarize an executive summary for the TikTok format because that's going well for us.
That's famous last words. I think Touchwood.
Yeah, well, this is what we did last time.
MDF wood. Yeah, it is. Yeah,
that's not MDF. That's chipboard. It's full of wood. Oh, for listeners,
this is chipboard.
For listeners who are listening. We are on YouTube. We're filming this. That's available. So you can see our Bernstein-esque gesticulations. But yes, what were the 3 reasons why Maestro was better than it had any right to be?
Okay, so I think visually, its cinematography took quite daring steps, lots of deep focus, very pulsing, moving, flowing camera, very exciting to watch, really interesting tonal shifts. And it looked and breathed and felt like a lot of filmmakers we love, Bergman, Cassavetes, Joanna Hogg, we mentioned. Like, it just feels like it's very confident in articulating what film can do. And didn't feel chaotic in doing that. Managed to hold all of these different visual styles together and do all of them really confidently. So visually, yeah, pretty mesmerizing, I thought.
I was going to say maybe number 2, performance. I think both actors, there are also some great bit parts. Sarah Silverman appears.
Sarah Silverman was great, actually,
but yes, Carey Mulligan, both Carey Mulligan and Bradley Cooper, excellent accent training. They really
she had that kind of mid-Atlantic.
Yeah, they do that transatlantic. Oh, I'm not so sure about that. You know, really like beautifully, but not overly done, slotting themselves into the context. But yes, a terrifically passionate performance that captured, I think, the many contradictions. I think Cooper firstly like transforms himself physically.
He knows what he's doing.
Oh, thank you. But you know, the nose. When I heard about it in the news, I was like,
as big as I thought.
I was like, this is a bit silly. I know the hours was fine, but like, if I'm told there's a prosthetic, I'm kind of skeptical.
It's all you can see when someone tells you about it.
Yeah, but actually, in Maestro, what it does is make him not look like Bradley Cooper. It makes him look like a different person who looks quite a lot like.
And I think that probably helps him with the performance in a way to sort of like defamiliarize his own face a bit and be like, okay, I am someone else. I'm not like Chris Kyle.
Yeah. So reason 2, the nose. No.
Yes.
It's kind of like there's something about the character of let me see. What's the third thing?
Leonard Bernstein, the main guy.
No.
That's a joke.
I've just written a note and I can't.
Can you not decipher?
Meant to. What does that say? I said formal innovation, great performance. Meant
to metabolizers, star. Memboard. We don't know, ladies and gentlemen. I think you've just discovered it's like looking at sort of
heartbreaking story.
Heartbreaking story.
God, it's like solving a crossword.
Very cryptic.
Okay, number 3, heartbreaking story. The way it elapses over time, very beautiful. I suppose that
jumps ahead in these interesting ways without signposting us through his life.
Yeah. But it also portrays this like immense complexity, like Passages, in fact, of someone who's like immensely vivacious, well loved. But like desperate for affection, desperate for approval, and I think it also sensitively shows the journey of dealing with someone like that, all the people around someone like that. It's a very honest and difficult portrayal of loving someone who is can never be loved enough, and that stuff is gone into in great depth. And it reminds me actually of that amazing shot of Carey Mulligan. Everyone's queuing up to shake his hand after this great performance, and she's just walking alone the other way, and no one's looking at her. No one's like thinking that she's there, and the shot just holds for a really long time of her just walking down and then turning. I mean, to me as
emotionally intelligent.
To me as a filmmaker, this is like somewhat common sense. But like I don't say that to diminish it, but like these are great decisions that I think really bolster the emotional tone of the film. And I just think it's crazy that that's not what most films look like, and especially these
other films would have bottled it and cut too soon.
Exactly.
We would have cut back to Bradley Cooper to see how he's thinking about her. Is he noticing that she's walking away? It would have cut back to her. It would have gone back to Bradley Cooper, but it just holds the camera on her back, shooting back. I thought it was great. I will say as well that, like, I know we've had 3 and 3, but I feel like the kind of the tensions it managed to pick up in a film, not only with his sexuality, but I also thought between musically, like I said before, about his pioneering of American musical theatre and Broadway theatre, but also his abiding love for Mahler and for the classical tradition. There's lots of interesting tensions that emerge through the film. not just his sexuality, but his personal life and his private life. You know, his musical interests, how he treats different people in his life. There's lots of interesting, you know, the portrait we're getting of, as I said, Mahler, the portrait we're getting of Bernstein as he moves through the film is like quite a complex character who's trying to hold a lot together. I thought really like good acting performance. Well done, Brad.
Beautifully done. I wonder what he'll do next. But yes,
oh my God, Beethoven.
Oh.
Let's just get him doing all of them. Let's just get
in this world of like
Xenakis.
The crisis the crisis of IP people talk about constantly. Almost every film produced by Hollywood, intellectual property, yes. Constantly every film made by Hollywood seems to just draw on some existing project or franchise or be about the life of someone famous, and usually this means that the film will be derivative not just in content but also in form. This was like a really exciting example of someone taking something which obviously is an interesting topic, which is more likely to attract an audience. It just is. People watch things about stuff they know, but does it in a really interesting and exciting way that makes us excited about filmmaking.
I think there's something about we have private conversations, not public conversations, private conversations.
Occasionally we talk off mic.
Yeah, sometimes. And about how maybe this is a part of filmmaking in the Hollywood establishment where, I mean, with biopics, where people are allowed to take a few more risks. So you think about Blonde, so the Marilyn Monroe biopic, which is similar in some ways. I feel like almost like Blonde walked, so Maestro could run in a way. This kind of clashing of different styles. Elvis is a very strange film as well, like formally very strange. I also go back to Jackie.
I didn't see
the JFK or
you're across
Jackie
the biopics.
I'm across all these biopics. I find them really interesting. I think Priscilla was one you thought was quite boring.
I was just about. That was what I was going to say. Priscilla, made by an auteurist director who has done interesting things in the past.
So true.
You know, someone a nepo baby who can she's not anymore a nepo baby. She's proved herself.
She's earned her.
But you know, someone who definitely I would imagine has the creative freedom to do something much more interesting than she did. Ends up making like a kind of very deeply
really
sincere Lana Del Rey video about, you know, and one of the reasons is because it's managed by the subject. The Priscilla herself was executive producer.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And that probably contributes. I mean, I'd be surprised if it contributes to the formal boringness of it, but certainly it makes the story.
You'd want to be safe.
Yeah, the depiction is very sanitized and very sympathetic with the central character. But yeah, Priscilla it betokens this dullness that seems to have swept through Hollywood, but perhaps things like Maestro showing that it's being swept out.
Yeah, Priscilla, Queen of the Desert? No, not anymore.
No, Maestro, king of being a great
composer and conductor in American tradition.
Fantastic queen. Yeah. There's an amazing line where she calls him a queen. She gets she gets one moment to be like a bit homophobic towards him after being like being cheated on with men repeatedly. Delightful.
Watch it on Netflix.
Watch it on Netflix.